Focus Chief Master Instructor Kenny Smith, Total Force Training Group. We want to talk about fight progression again, just in a little bit broader context. Previously, we talked about the progression of an empty-handed assault and an ego-based fight. An ego-based fight being one that was not necessarily targeted, it was one that progressed. There are 4 irrefutable and infallible things that happen in every piece of interpersonal combat. These are the only 4 things I can tell you that are going to happen in your fight. The first one is 2 parties are going to converge. You're going to get there. All right. To use a military term, we call that an insertion. All right. You get to the fight. The next thing is initial contact. The 2 parties come together. Contact is made, which can go any number of ways. All right. The fight occurs after contact, and at some point, the 2 parties get away from each other. That will be an extraction. What will be examples of each one? An insertion will be a police officer initiating a traffic stop, DEA agent breaching a door, military personnel, rhyme right up the road from Fort Bragg, the 82nd making a jump, 7th, 3rd SF group, either one of them, making a jump, other units there making their little birds touching down and then jumping off. Once that little bird gets over that hostile area, there you go, there's your insertion. That could be as simple as a civilian walking across the parking lot. That could be your insertion into your fight. Initial contact. What is initial contact? Exactly what it sounds like. You're making an initial contact with a party, with an outside party. That could be, how you doing? Hey man, let me get $5. Need help? Give me your wallet. I'm going to kill you. Any one of those could be your initial contact. Here's one people don't think about that I actually know friends who started fights over. Someone bumps into them. They feel disrespected. There's your fight. Right there. Your initial contact was no more than that. A little brush. Oh, excuse me. What'd you say to me? Watch where you're going. Now there's a fight. That's happened. The initial contact can also be going straight into that 3rd phase. The fight starts. So let's look at initial contact in the fight before we touch. Well, you know what? Before we do that, we're going ahead and extraction is whatever gets you the hell out of there. Maybe the police show up. Maybe you're at a club. Security shows up. Big ugly bald guy like me breaks the fight up. Go back to military context. That Humvee, that Sea Knight, that Sea Stallion, Osprey, Black Hawk, LAV, Track, Bradley, whatever shows up to take you back to wherever you come from. Police. All right, search warrant secure. We got what we need. Let's go take it back to the barn. Here's your traffic, police on a traffic stop. Here's your citation. This is what you're charged with. This is your court date. Here's your paperwork back. Drive safe. Have a nice day. There's your extraction. Civilian. Walk out. Shut your door. Crank the car up. Pull out parking lot. All right. So let's look at specifically during the insertion. What can you do to assist yourself in preparing or preventing the fight as it may come? Make the initial contact early. How do you do that? Situational awareness. Can you maintain situational awareness 100% of the time? No, I've discussed it at length. That's totally impossible. You got to sleep sometime. But when you're out in town, ain't the time to be sleeping. Okay? Things to keep in mind in the military. When we were conducting a patrolling exercise or something to that effect, we would, every specific interval, and it was a different interval for each patrol, but every interval we would stop, look, and listen. Pull a tight 360 and find out what's going on. Look around, see what's in the area, smell. You'd be amazed at what you can actually smell in the bush. Listen, just get an idea of what's going on. That not apply to the civilian world, police world. I'll tell you it applies to the police world. I listen to Scanner a lot, and you hear police officers on there all the time. I'm not going to stop him here, I'm going to stop him here. Maybe it's a high traffic area. Maybe it's right across the street from the dope house where they initially spot the violation. Right? What does that mean to a civilian? Well, you might not necessarily want to walk to the same door the aggressive panhandler standing in front of who's chasing people down trying to get money off of. You know, if you go to Walmart's and there's someone sitting there obviously stirring up trouble trying to get money off people, you might not want to go through the same door. If you can't, try and go behind him. Put people between you and him. You know, whatever you have to do, but you can see that threat before the initial contact is made. So the initial contact for you and the initial contact for the threat are not necessarily one and the same. Initial contact doesn't necessarily tell you much about how the fight's going to progress. It can, but it doesn't necessarily. Someone who sees you on the side of the road with your hood up might just be asking you for help. They might be asking you for help to see if when you turn around, are you open carrying? Is there anybody else with you? They might be setting you up for something. But they're just asking for help. And someone asking you for help isn't necessarily a threat, right? I don't think it is. The initial contact could be putting one of these in your face, something like this, too. Whatever that may be. The initial contact can also be walking, hit, knife, whatever. Okay? So understand that initial contact may be very aggressive, it may not be. That's why you want to try during the insertion to make that initial contact before they know about it, being proactive about it. The next thing is the fight itself. Now, I can't tell you about the fight itself, but I can tell you that depending on the fight, where the fight starts, there are certain things that will happen before it can go to the next level. And I mean level exactly as it sounds. There are 3 venues a fight can occur in. And I don't mean what physical locations. I mean realms in space. Standing, on the ground, or rather on your feet, on the ground, or somewhere in between. On the feet's obvious. We're standing here, we're trading blows. Jab, cross, overhand, whatever. We're trading blows. Maybe throwing some kicks in there. In between, or on the ground, obviously, you know, it looks like a jiu-jitsu match now. Well, let me rephrase. It looks like a jiu-jitsu match doing everything you're not allowed to do in a jiu-jitsu match. Because I don't play by their rules. Next thing. In between. Maybe I'm throwing them. Maybe we're in the clinch, pulling someone around. They're not standing up, but they're not on the ground either. Maybe the fight starts when we're seated in our vehicle. All right. Maybe the fight starts when we're down on one knee checking a tire pressure. Okay. Military personnel. Fight starts when you're in the kneeling behind a corner. Okay. Sitting in your house in an easy chair, someone kicked the door in. You know, those 3 things are there. Now, how do these progress? From the standing position, you can be outside of contact distance, which is the realm of the firearm. From the inside of contact distance, which is the realm of the knife and the hand. You could be in a transitional range, which is range where you can clinch, and there are essentially no takedowns that you can't pull off within your skill level. Or you can be on the ground, which I consider ground fighting a range because it is extremely intimate and you have far less mobility. It would be like literally having your back against a wall. Actually, you have more mobility with your back against the wall than you do on the ground. So understand that to get to those, at some point between your insertion and the start of that fight, they have to cross through all of those ranges. Okay? To get you on the ground, unless you just slip and fall, they have to put you there. That make sense? Okay. So I can't really tell you much about the fight itself, but I will tell you that the range and the venue there, the realm in space, dictates what weapon you should go for. All right? Obviously, this knife's pretty quick to get out. So is this. In the clinch, I'm not going for that gun. If I mess with that gun at all, it's specifically while I'm breaking contact. Typically, I'm looking for this in the clinch. Last thing I want to cover is the extraction. What gets you out of there? Maybe a police officer showing up. Again, it may be security. It may be you produced a weapon and the subject decided to run. Maybe you caught an opportunity and you decided to run. All right. Sometimes discretion is a greater part of valor. Understand that. So I hope this kind of puts some things into a bit more perspective on how certain fights progress. And this is not, I want to make it clear, this is not, this is how the fight's going to progress. This is the system that interpersonal combat nominally, keyword nominally, follows. The two parties meet, come together. The two parties have some form of initial contact. The fight starts. At some point, one or both is taken away. Okay? That's infallible. The rest of it is up to you. Now, what does that mean? Get a few training partners, get some training guns, get some airsoft guns, get some training knives, get some gloves, and set some of this up and do some force-on-force training. Force-on-force is a beautiful tool when it doesn't follow set scripts all the time. So go spontaneous, you know, just kind of give them a rough scenario. Okay, this is where we are, rob me. And leave it at that, and let them be a bad guy, you know. Like I said, the fight's not guaranteed to follow it, but you can certainly play with the progression enough in force-on-force that you can prepare yourself for just about anything you may face. So I hope you all enjoy this, and get some force-on-force going on. I'm thinking about doing some airsoft force-on-force classes here at headquarters, probably this fall, maybe this winter. And I'd like to get a few of y'all out here, obviously. Check us out, 910-466-1506. www.totalforcetraining.weebly.com. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/totalforce. Look us up on Google+. Just search there for Total Force or Total Force Training Group. And I hope to see you all in class. This is Chief Master Instructor Kenny Smith, Total Force Training Group, signing off. Stay frosty. Watch your six. One asterisk.